My name is Jessica Robinson. I'm a cybersecurity expert with a different approach. I work with CEOs and C-level leaders to help them protect the money that they make and to help them better protect the data they're entrusted to safeguard. I'm very happy and honored to do this webinar today with David Kalow. So I'll go ahead and hand it off to you, David, to introduce yourself.
I'm now a solo IP strategy lawyer focusing on increasing profits and value by thinking about not just spending money on intellectual property rights. I've done patent, trademark, copyright, trade secret litigation, licensing, protection, and helping corporate lawyers with deals across bio, pharma, computer, clean tech, nanotech, and of course, Conan the Barbarian.
Wonderful. Thank you, David. And I will say that our partner for today's webinar is Zoe. Do you have any questions or you have any challenges, having trouble hearing or seeing anything, just please, you can send her a private chat and she'll be able to help you out. She'll also be monitoring the chat today for any questions. So if I have a question, if you have a question while I'm chatting, kind of more in the kind of security aspects of Zoom, then please go ahead and raise it and she'll be sure to let us know. Same with David as he's talking more about both security, but also really the IP and trade secrets and legal aspects as well. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So Zoom has been in the news pretty constantly for nearly the past 2 weeks. And I've been in conversations, I can speak for myself personally, with a number of people about it. This continues to come up. And I find that even when we talk about it, and I read another article on it, I think that the topic is gonna start to die down. Something happens and the topic just continues to get larger and larger. And so why is this a big deal? This is a big deal because at the end of the day, this is something where this is a company that the FBI has sent a warning about to the public. We have the New York State Attorney General who has opened up an investigation into it. One of their shareholders at Zoom has issued a class action lawsuit against the organization for their false claims of security and privacy, specifically end-to-end encryption. The New York Department of Education has banned Zoom. Google has banned Zoom, which is probably not a surprise since they have Google Meet. Their Google Hangouts is now called Google Meet. And Elon Musk has even banned Zoom. So this is really starting to snowball a bit here. And so we can see that if parents are concerned when it comes to their children, if employers are concerned when it comes to their employees, they probably it's okay for them to really question what's going on here and what they should be doing more of to ensure the security and privacy of not only their information, but also of their employees. So there are two things we'll particularly cover. One, if you're doing a live Zoom, and then the second will be if you're doing a private Zoom, which is what this is. So number one, if you're doing a public Zoom meeting, meaning you're opening this up to really multiple people within your community, probably looking to invite over 100 people, or if you're having this live on Facebook or YouTube, you want to make sure that not only all your security features are enabled, but you want to make sure only people that actually are going to speak on the Zoom are actually have the link to do so. And you could limit that by making sure that one, people have to go to your website or have to come to you or whoever's managing the meeting personally in order to get the link. So if it's a Facebook Live or it's Zoom Live, you don't make that necessarily public in a chat, but you make it so they have to come directly to the host in order to get that meeting, or to get that meeting link. The other thing is you want to make sure that you're enabling all features of being able to limit people's mic usage, so turn people's mic off, turn people's video off. You want to make sure that people have to be in a waiting room before you personally admit them on. And because part of this is also bot related, meaning there are bots that are going around looking for different Zoom meetings to be able to join, you do want to make sure you're paying attention to the name and the title of individuals that appear to be coming into your Zoom meeting. So for example, I can look and I can see names of people that have joined. All right. And so I see one that doesn't necessarily have a name, but I'm not necessarily raising a red flag on that. However, I was on a Zoom meeting last week where it was nothing but numeric IDs, or it was an alphanumeric ID, meaning it was like 1, small h, capital I, D, 3, 5, 7, something that just doesn't make sense. that's a red flag that maybe that's not an actual person, but it could be a bot or it could be something else that isn't entering that meeting with the right intentions. I also had this experience last year when I was on a Skype meeting. So right now Zoom is in the hot seat, but the reason why Microsoft has actually gone to Microsoft Teams is because of security issues that they had with Skype. And so if you're within your organization, if you still happen to be using Skype, now is the time to switch to Microsoft Teams. So this is something that they've known has been going on for a while now. Just so happens Zoom is in the public hot seat for it. So those are the key things you definitely want to make sure you're doing. So when it comes to private meetings, you want to make sure you're enabling those same features. Making sure you're using a password, which is now also available for the public meetings. You want to make sure that you're miking people, meaning that you're turning their microphone off, that you're turning their video off if they happen to be flashing something that's inappropriate. And also you want to make sure that you remove people as well. So these are the key things that you want to make sure that you're doing. If you have any questions, put them into the chat. And from there, I'll throw it over to David.
All right. So this was very useful to me because I'm a new Zoom user. And of course, there's a great meta level irony that we're using Zoom to discuss Zoom. A couple of things that come out of the intellectual property perspective on cybersecurity and these issues. One is levels of secret, top secret, confidential, eyes only. Not all data is the same. Keep in mind the context. Jessica and I were discussing this is not something she doesn't know. She's just letting me talk about it. But if it's really private, that may not belong in a Zoom chat, the same way that if something's attorney-client privileged, I'd rather you didn't write me an email saying, I think our patent might be invalid for these 3 reasons. Rather, your email should only state, David, let's talk. And the discussion about whether those 3 reasons are or not things to worry about, we keep in mind that anything we write down, or in this case, put out on the public channel, audio or visual, could appear on the front page of the New York Times at some point. Of course, you then open it up, not just Zoom, Skype, Facebook, email security, spear phishing, multiple issues. So Zoom, not just Zoom, all of cybersecurity, which Jessica is a true expert in, and then not just cybersecurity, but also physical security. If you're protecting confidential information, privacy, trade secrets, you want to think about the night cleaning service coming in and taking physical files or getting into computers. You want to think about disloyal or unhappy staff. Again, you want to think about levels of security. What's the most protected? What's a medium level? You certainly don't want to have more than 2 or 3 levels for most companies, or it gets way too complicated. But you want to have as few people as possible. Know the formula for Coca-Cola. You want to keep in mind the trade-offs of inconvenience as against people won't use it if it's too complicated. Good things like VPNs and 2-factor authentication slow down people doing their work. And you have to trade that off in physical security as well. So not just Zoom, not just cybersecurity, and then not just trade secrets. As you're protecting your valuable competitive advantage with intellectual property, you want to be thinking across the full spectrum of patent and trademark and copyright and trade secret, attack and defense, as you're using all of these tools. Last point being, for this, as with the other IP issues, training, reminding your staff, having them sit down yearly, quarterly, regularly to say, these are the precautions. Don't click on an unknown email. If someone's desperately trying to get you to wire money by use of Apple gift cards, pause for a minute, send this to us at security. So it's Zoom, but it's all the rest of things as well.
Okay, great, wonderful. Thank you, David. So with that, we have about 4 minutes left for questions. If anyone has any questions they'd like to share, or anything that's on top of mind regarding this topic.
Paul, I'm expecting you to ask a question. I happen to know Paul.
Okay.
Don't specifically have a question, but I will say there's a very nice library you've got behind you. I remember the one in your apartment was all white. But we've been using Zoom. My company is for security and compliance, and we have a number of clients who are startups or early stage companies that are developing technological solutions. And in the current, that's very nice too, because you're a physicist. And a black belt. So we've known each other for a while. But anyway, so we've been using Zoom for meetings with some of our clients, and we've been doing it very sparingly and making sure, as you mentioned, Jessica, that we make sure all of the limitations are there and that somebody is actually controlling who can get access, who knows about it, first of all. Only invite people can get access to it. And then before anybody shares something that takes over the screen, it's got to be somebody you know and trust. And whoever is monitoring the meeting is making sure that that's all well controlled. Because the second something goes out of your control, as you mentioned, there are bots circulating around. A lot of the weird named participants you may have seen may not be people, but just may be the randomly generated character strings for IDs that are just shooting around looking for some easy entry. So I think all the points of making sure somebody is in control at all times is very important.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, and thank you for really just really kind of putting an exclamation point on that. I mean, that's why I'm so grateful Zoe's here to really help us as well, because you're right, and it really does take someone that can really pay attention and to ensure all of that is happening. Great. Oh, yes. I love the new background, David. Great. Any other questions, comments, concerns, hypotheses? Anyone want to share anything? We have about a minute and a half left before we end our first Lightning Series webinar on cybersecurity and IP.
If no one has a question, let me mention to take this occasion when you're thinking about Zoom and security flaws to make a 5x2 matrix for yourself. What am I doing in patent, trademark, copyright, trade secret, and licensing, trade secret, both physical and cyber, across attack and defense, making sure I'm not going to get sued, as well as what if someone steals mine, and think about where you are, what you can do to improve within a reasonable budget. That one step is going to pay off tremendously, starting with the Zoom issues and then building from there.
Yep. Great point, David. Okay.
So Jessica, you want to recommend two-factor authentication despite my disclaimers?
I do recommend two-factor authentication. It's definitely something that I recommend with all my clients for sure. Without a doubt, yes.
What about VPNs? Do you recommend that as well?
Without a doubt, yeah, without a doubt. Have to use VPNs, and if for whatever reason your company isn't providing you a VPN, there are a number of solutions that are affordable that individuals and families can purchase for their own home security.
Oh, I should mention also for cybersecurity generally, again, not just Zoom, company equipment, if at all possible, the company should be thinking about for both security and the goodwill of employees. Make sure they have the equipment they need to work from home, be productive. The cost to get a Chromebook are trivial compared to the lost productivity, and that you can control that equipment, set up the security right, not depend on each person to do it. I think it'd be huge. Again, Jessica, I bow to you on this.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It's better to be preventative than to try to fix something later. A lot of times leaders can be proactive, particularly when it comes to setting aside a budget for cybersecurity, but it's also always better to be preventative, and it's also more cost effective than trying to kind of catch up and follow later after you've already paid for a cleanup of a breach and forensics and communications and PR and all of that to come in. Right. So, yeah. And
that's what gets costly.
We have one question coming in. Zoe?
Two quickly.
Two quick questions?
Okay, just hi. Okay. From Mimi, Jessica, for the consumer, aka home, what VPN would you recommend?
I would recommend CyberGhost or ExpressVPN. Those are two that I have used specifically, and I can speak to those. I think that there are a number of good ones on the market, but right away, those are ones that are very popular to use. Okay. All right. Was there another quick question, Zoe?
Nope.
Or was that it?
As of now.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, well, thank you for that question, Mimi. Appreciate it. And thank you all. Thank you, David and Zoe as well. And I guess with that, we will end our first lightning chat of our webinar series of cybersecurity and IP. And we'll be back soon. So please make sure you join us next time, right? So thank you so much,
Lightning
David.
will strike twice in the same place.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And thank you, Zoe, as well. So, okay.
Thank you all.
Take care. All right.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
one.
Bye.